Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Charles. I want to welcome you guys to another episode of the Dreamerspro Show, where we cover everything from sports, hot topics, classic debates, entertainment, and where we give you guys a fresh perspective on things and how we see them. And in today's episode, the topic is, will Paul George ever be good enough for Kawhi Leonard and the Clippers? So that's the topic I want to get into in today's video. But before we get into that, I want you guys to please make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Please make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on any of our videos, because sometimes people don't get the notifications. So please make sure you go ahead and do that. Also, check out our Dreamerspro Max. It's an online sports community that we created. It's a place where you can go and start basketball discussions, chat live during games, go live with us after games, consume original content that you're not going to be able to get anywhere else, and do so many other cool things. So if you guys are interested in that, be sure to check that out and get 7 days of free access. We have that linked in the description below. I'm sure you guys are definitely going to enjoy yourselves, and tonight is going to be a good night to be a part of it, because we're going to be definitely going live during that game. So anyway, let me get into this topic here. So since the acquisition of Rajon Rondo last week on the trade deadline, I've been really excited about the Clippers' chances, right? Because for me, as a Kawhi Leonard fan, I really want to see him do well, and I actually want to see him win another title. But I'll also be happy for the Clippers to finally break through and win their first title. I think they've kind of been bullied by a lot of other teams and a lot of other fans, and it'll be nice to see them kind of break through and get the monkey off of their back. Similarly to the way the Toronto Raptors did, because remember, we used to call the Raptors, or they used to be called the baby Raptors. No one took them seriously because they would get to the playoffs and things would just, for whatever reason, just go awry, right? They were saying that, maybe it was the LeBron curse. They couldn't get over LeBron James, and I think it really got to them. So for me, I'll be actually excited to see the Clippers actually break through and to see my man Kawhi Leonard get his third ring, right? Because I still think he can move up in the all-time rankings, all time. So for me, I think it'll be good. But there's a thought that's always in the back of my mind, and I think is a thought that a lot of people have, and that thought is Paul George, right? He's the elephant in the room, right? He's the guy I try my best not to think about much and just kind of hope for the best, when it comes to Paul George, because let's just face it, he's going to be the main factor for the Clippers for whether or not they break through or they don't. Paul George is going to be the guy that's going to make the difference. Let's just be honest. When Kawhi Leonard went to the Clippers last season and he brought PG with him, I was very excited. Because I said to myself, wow, man, they just got a really good player. They got a very good two-way player, one of the best two-way players. Just the season before, he had finished number 3 in regular season MVP voting. He had finished top 3 in defensive player of the year voting. So I was like, man, the Clippers got a player. And that's why when that news dropped initially, people all around the NBA were stunned, from the players like Damian Lillard to coaches, to people in media. Everybody was stunned. They were like, wow, they were able to pull off this trade. And a lot of people thought they were the favorites, because given the fact of how well Paul George had played just the year before, now you're pairing him with the reigning NBA Finals MVP, who had just went on a historic run, who led the playoffs in points, rebounds, and steals, scored the third most points since Michael Jordan and LeBron James. So they were like, you put these two guys together, there's going to be magic. There's going to be a title that that's going to be on the way for the Clippers. And a lot of people thought that, a lot, including myself. We all thought that Paul George, the Paul George and the Clippers and these guys were going to come, they were going to come up big for the, in the playoffs, because the year before with the Oklahoma City Thunder, let me read you Paul George's numbers. He was playing 37 minutes a game. He was scoring 28 points per game, shooting 44% from the field, 38.5% from the three-point line, 84% from the free throw line, getting you 8.2 rebounds, 4.1 assists, 2.2 steals per game. Those were the numbers that Paul George had that regular season. So for me, I thought it was going to be impossible for him to have a major drop off, but that's exactly what happened. Because for the Clippers in the regular season last year, he went from scoring 28 points per game all the way down to 21.5. Now, some people can say, listen, the reason that is because he had 2 shoulder surgeries in the offseason and he didn't have time to train, which is a logical excuse. And a lot of NBA players have said, listen, training in the offseason is crucial to the success of an NBA player going into the next season. So obviously maybe that played a role. Even Kawhi Leonard said that, listen, the guy didn't have a chance to train, so his scoring went down. He scored about, he was shooting virtually the same percentage. His 3-point percentage actually went up. His free throw percentage went up in the regular season for the Clippers, but his rebounds went down. Assists were virtually the same, and his steals went down. The season before, he averaged 2.2 steals. For the Clippers, he was averaging 1.4. But really, where things just fell apart was in the playoffs. Paul George's numbers went even lower. If I look at his playoff productivity last season for the Clippers, he dropped down to 20 points per game, shooting 40% from the field, 33% from the three-point line. So his points, overall shooting percentage, and three-point percentage all went down. His free throw shooting percentage went up. He was shooting 91% from the free throw line. He was getting you 6.1 rebounds, 3.8 assists, and 1.5 steals. But anybody that watched Paul George in the playoffs last year could see with their own two eyes that he was not the same player. He was not the same guy that he was even in the regular season. He just completely disappeared. So for this year, for the Clippers and Kawhi to break through, for Kawhi Leonard to get his third ring, Paul George is gonna have to be even better than he is right now. And some people may think that's a tall order because this season, the guy's putting up some very good numbers this season. This season, he's averaging, 22.5 points per game. So scoring went up from last season. His shooting percentage went up by like 4 percentage points. He's shooting 47% from the field, 42% from the 3-point line, 88% from the free throw line. So his points, overall field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, all have gone up this year. His rebounding has gone up from 5.7 last year to 6.3. So his rebounds are up. His assists are also up from 3.9 to 5.5, and his steals are virtually the same. So Paul George is actually having a better second year with the Clippers than he had the first year with the Clippers, and obviously that has a lot to do with health. Him feeling like he was being called out and really made fun of by fans and media by calling him Pandemic P and all of these different things. So you can see that Paul George is kind of having a bounce back year, although recently his numbers are starting to tail off, because at one point in the season he was averaging 24 points per game. Now he's down to 22.5 points per game. So he's been a bit inconsistent as of late, but one can say the same thing about Kawhi Leonard. But for me, let's just be honest, for the Clippers to have a chance this year, we know Kawhi Leonard is going to need to be better than he is in the regular season, and he always is. Kawhi, if you look at his numbers last playoffs, his numbers went up, right? From if across the board, I think with the only exception being his 3-point shooting, but everything else went up. For the Clippers to have a chance to make it to the finals and ultimately win it all, Paul George is going to need to be better than he is right now. Now, my hope is this time around, with the addition of Rajon Rondo, is going to make things for him a little bit easier in the playoffs. I don't think he's going to have like the situation where you see him have like a mental collapse and Rajon Rondo's there. I think Rajon Rondo is going to be able to call guys out, hold guys accountable. He's a vocal leader, and they all understood this. Kawhi Leonard has said that. Paul George has said that, referring to the acquisition of Rajon Rondo. So I think he's definitely going to be a pivotal piece for the Clippers this year in the playoffs. But Paul George needs to step up. It's just that simple. Some people are saying, why don't you come at Paul George and up? For me, it's like, I can come at him, but the thing is, he's already there. It's not like as if he's a piece that they're going to move. It's not like as if he's a piece that they can move right now. He's there. So the Clippers are going to just have to do what they have with him. But for me, if the Clippers want to win a title, a lot of it is going to ride on Paul George, because we know Kawhi always gets better in the playoffs. This is something we understand about Kawhi Leonard. Now, the question is going to be, and the main kind of X factor is going to be Paul George. If he has a great playoff run, meaning if he's averaging around 24, 25 points per game, he's shooting a high percentage, he's aggressive, he's getting to the free throw line, he's coming up clutch, he's helping Kawhi, really like helping him, including other players, but really we're talking about Paul George here. If he helps them, I think the Clippers can make it to the finals. Now, obviously, the Western Conference got stronger. The Western Conference got strong, especially with the addition now of key players during the trade deadline. Even the Lakers just added Andre Drummond. So the Western Conference got stronger, but I still think if he's on his A game and he's very focused and he's locked in, I think the Clippers have a very good shot. But in order for that to happen, PG needs to step up. There are no two ways about it. There's just no two ways about it. There's no way in hell Kawhi is going to be able to carry Paul George to the finals. It just can't happen. He needs to play better than Pascal Siakam did during that first finals run, because Pascal Siakam, he played well, but he's not as skilled as Paul George. Paul George needs to be better this year in the playoffs, and I guess that's the reason why a lot of us are kind of like holding our breath, and I hope that Rajon Rondo is going to be able to help him get through the playoffs this year, because I know Kawhi Leonard is going to be ready, because he's always ready. But PG is going to be the X factor, and if he does, I think the Clippers have a very, very, very good chance. But if he starts, playing well one game, disappearing the other game, it's going to be very tough for this team, because the playoff this year is going to be even harder than it was last year, because teams got better, and some teams are now looking at the Clippers and saying, listen, last year we were kind of in awe of you guys, but now that we saw that you guys blew that 3-1 lead, a lot of teams feel like we can beat them. A lot of teams feel that, regardless of what some people like coaches and Doc Rivers would say, no, the Clippers and the Lakers are still the team to beat. A lot of teams are going to give the Lakers the benefit of the doubt over the Clippers, which is understandable, because the Clippers capitulated last year in the playoffs. So this year, I hope and pray that Paul George comes through for them, because they're going to need every single thing from him this year for the Clippers to make it to the finals. And if they do make it to the finals against the Brooklyn Nets, you need to see like an MVP caliber PG to play with Kawhi Leonard, because that's going to be a juggernaut of a team to beat. So what I want to know from you guys is, do you think Paul George will be good enough this season to help the Clippers get through? If you do, let me know why you think so in the comment section below. If you don't think he's going to be good enough, let me know why you think so in the comment section below. Once again, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to make sure you go ahead and hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and hit the notification bell to be notified whenever we drop our content. Once again, it's just Charles here from Dreamerspro, wishing you guys an amazing day, and catch you guys on the next episode.